Welcome back to my channel. I thank you all for hanging out here. This is the channel where we try to find balance and we're trying to get rid of all the problems between men and women. Please like and subscribe because I'm going to be going through a lot of different things, especially a lot of response videos, kind of looking through and seeing if we can find balance in these videos. Are these people saying the 100% truth? Are they just leaning into the facts that they have found, the statistics, or is there really something else going on a little bit under the surface that, nobody might be talking about? Anyway, today we're going to be talking about interracial relationships, primarily white men to black women and a little bit of black men to white women. So that is the main concept today, and let's get started.
Why white men don't marry black women as often as black men marry white women. I'm going to give a few reasons, and I think that if you do research, it will bear me out. So why do more black men marry white women than white men marry black women? I think that black men marry white women at a rate of about 2 times greater than white men marrying black women. So let's look at it. Number one, white men don't operate in a state of delusion. I do not believe that white men fabricate an imagination about a woman in his head and then go about trying to find the woman to fit their imagination. So black men, I believe, do that, and the rate at which black men and white women get divorced gives us some kind of a clue as to what is going on. And what white women say about black men give us another clue.
Okay, so what do they say? So I don't know maybe she'll talk about that in a few seconds, but that's like the very first thing I have to start with. Like, okay, what do they say? But also, I think she's right about the numbers. I do think that black men right now, currently in the numbers that we do have, I know things are changing, so before you guys beat me up in the comments, I do know things are changing and probably we need to get more data, especially for the, 2020s. So 2021, 2022, 2023. So I think that things are changing. But in the past, especially before 2010, I can definitely agree because I've seen some things saying that black men is more like 15% they date and marry outside of their race. And it used to be about 5% of black women. Now, I don't know if it's, she's saying double. So she would, according to her, it would be black women at 7%. I haven't seen that. If I do find those numbers, I'll pop them up on the screen. But for right now, I am going to lean back to the numbers that I am used to, which it was more like 1 to 3 type of deal.
So white men operate in reality. They understand the culture that they live in. They understand the country that they live in. They know what they can do and what they can't do. They know what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. Which brings us to the second reason that white men don't marry out as often as black men, because if white men marry out, it's usually going to be with a white woman. Now, I think several black women content creators have mentioned this. If they marry an Asian woman, it's usually a white Asian, or a Hispanic is usually a white Hispanic.
Okay, again, right now, she's not giving a lot of details. She's doing a lot of speculation. What she's saying is still true, though, in essence. White men, it's not so much, I think, because she's kind of talking about the whole Asian thing. She's not putting in media at all so far in her concept. And I'm hoping that she'll get around to talking about that because media really does play a huge factor. Like right now, as more white men are going after Asian women, there's a lot more movies that are sexualizing Asian women. In fact, there are a lot of Asian women in America that have actually been upset about the fact that Hollywood has literally had Asian women in movies walking around being a sex object, but they don't say anything. They literally say nothing. They're just there. And this has happened in like 2 or 3 major films that have come out of Hollywood. And so we have to, think about this. And then there's a huge influx of anime. And anime right now is one of the major things that men, period, black and white and Latino and all around the world are actually consuming. And one of the things about anime, especially when you start to get into romantic anime, and yes, there are romantic stories, the romantic stories done by anime, they don't always have a female protagonist. Sometimes they have a male protagonist. And these male protagonists are going about life, right? And then they're meeting women. So you're seeing the romance from the male point of view. And when you're in that position, and now these men are seeing these Asian women being these love interests, caring about the man, being there for the man, then what it does is it changes the narrative in people's heads, and it makes it where white men, black men, a lot of different types of men are starting to seek out women that can help them fulfill that fantasy.
So when they go dark, when they go darker in complexion, it's usually with a black American woman. So number 2, white men know their place. They know their group is the richest, the most powerful, and the most wanted men in the world. So they have the luxury of vetting women to see who's the best fit. White men left their white wives up in the plantation house and came down to the slave quarters to bother the slave women. And they wouldn't have done that if they weren't attracted to those women, because some of those relationships lasted for years, not just Thomas Jefferson. And when you go up there, you think, well, the promised land, what does that mean? Well, it was a plantation. The slave owner promised those enslaved people that when he died, he was going to leave them that land. Now, it doesn't say that a woman was involved, but you can assume that a slave woman was involved in that. In Greene County, Alabama, in Pickens County, Alabama, in Choctaw County, Alabama, all over the South, white men were involved in relationships with enslaved women. And in some cases, all the children that those men had were by those black women.
Okay, so what she's saying there, again, is true. I like the fact that she had the whole thing with Lithonia, especially, me being, living in and around Atlanta. But this is kind of true forever. I mean, men like women. I think we need to understand that. Men like women. If you put me in front of women of all different cultures and races throughout the whole world, I am going to be attracted to probably somebody in every single culture and every single race. I have been around lots of different cultures so far in my life, and I've never seen a culture that I didn't find at least one woman attractive. I think that we have to, kind of get out of the narrative of it's just, oh, black women, that this, that, and the third. I'm not necessarily saying black women aren't attractive, because I do believe black women are attractive. But I think that, we also have to understand that white men did the same thing to Native Americans. They've done the same thing to people all around the world. And it's funny because if you actually even study the media and culture of a lot of other cultures outside of, the United States, when you're dealing with a minority outside of the United States, you will see the people of that culture saying the same thing. Hey, we was living our lives great. And then the big ship came with all the white men and they impregnated all of our women and then they left. I mean, this is just how things were. All right. That's part of, colonization. That's just kind of how things are. And it's a part of war. You kill off your man, kill off the men, and then you basically, take the women in and you procreate with them. Now, slavery was a little bit different because it was supposed to be a separation, but we know it wasn't. And there was a lot of South American countries where it was 100% like just free for all.
White men have the luxury of vetting women and picking the best fit for themselves. And when a white man does commit to a black woman in marriage, he stays with her and she stays with him. And that's not the case with black men and white women. Number three, poor white men typically do.
One of the things that I've noticed with a lot of black men and white women, again, it still goes back to their socioeconomic background. And this is where a lot of black people, they kind of cringe a little bit. And I'm hoping you'll give me a little leeway and hear me through. Because I do find that sometimes in the comments, I've actually not disagreed with the person, but they've kind of gotten caught up on a tangent instead of kind of listening to the whole point. We have lots of different statuses in America. You have the upper class, you have the middle class, you have the lower class. And a lot of times when people are out here and they're talking about Pookie and Ray Ray, they're generally talking about men from the lower class. It's generally the lower class that don't have much going on. And to a degree, there are women, white women, that fetishize black men, maybe seeing them in porn or watching them in a movie or romance, and they just want a black man. And many times they want any black man. And so it's not always that they're picking well, they're just picking black men. And so if we can say that there are certain black women that even have problems picking good black men, then a lot of times it can be the same thing for white women. And just because a man is a multimillionaire, it does not mean he comes from the strong socioeconomic background. Because if you take Pookie and Ray Ray and you put him into the NFL or into the NBA, or he's a track star, and we all know, or rapper, and we all know that a lot of these people in these places are Pookie and Ray Ray type of people. So now they're multimillionaires, and some of these white women are trying to get at them. And as they're trying to get at them, the personality of these men has not changed. They're still the same person that they were when they were walking the streets. It's just that now they have money, right? And so a lot of people, if you've not been around a lot of different types of black people, then those people that have never really gotten around the Pookie and Ray Ray, they might think, oh, this is how black people are. So it's a lot to unpack, and that's why I say we always have to find balance. It's the same thing I say with the passport bros. Nobody cares if Pookie and Ray Ray go overseas. That black women don't care about them. So, because most of the time, the people that are complaining on that, generally are the educated black women. But when the educated men are saying, black men are saying, hey, I'm going overseas, that's when the educated black women have a problem. Because now they're saying, oh, crap, the exact guy that I want is preferring to go overseas. So we always have to make sure that we're looking at this kind of from multi different angles to try to find out what's really happening.
Not marry outside their race, because black women don't give a broke man a second look, because they've already had enough of that in their own race. So even if a broke white man wanted to marry a black woman, she probably wouldn't marry him. Now,
I would say that that's not true either. I've seen black women with some broke white men. I will say it's not as often. I say that that's extremely rare, but I've seen it. I've actually seen that in my own life. I think that there is an energy of people that might be, after broke people. But I do understand the main point, because I do think as women are black women, because a lot of black women are what we call upwardly mobile. So they're trying to make more money and they're trying to go up the corporate ladder. And as you're going to these higher and higher places, honestly, there's just not as many black men. This has been one of the main complaints that a lot of black women have. So as they're going up, the spaces get tighter and tighter, the bubble gets tighter and tighter, and then there's fewer and fewer black men in there. So I think it feels like black women are picking these upper white men, but I think part of it is that's just the people that they're around.
Here in the South where I live, there are interracial couples with white men and black women. Now, typically it would be a college professor and a college professor. Or the white man might be owner of a service station and the wife might be the cashier in the service station. A white woman will marry a broke black man. Now, I have a theory about that. And I believe that those white women think that the black man will eventually step up and do like the white man does and take care of his family. And when that does not materialize, that's when you see the white woman at Walmart with some biracial children paying for her groceries with a food stamp card.
I kind of hate to say that I agree with that part, but honestly, I do. And we've kind of seen this, and it's played out in multiple different ways. There's even been, news, articles or whatever you want to call them that have been done that have not directly talked about it, but it's kind of sort of talked about it. White women, generally speaking, they have more of a chance of coming from a two-parent household. So they're used to a man doing his part. But when you have a white woman who has married a black man, or really any man that has come from a single parent household, is not saying all the time it's bad. I'm not saying all the time it's bad, but many times a lot of these moms coddle their sons, i.e., they put their sons in a position where the son believes that mommy always gonna take care of me even when I'm 30, right? And so when those types of men end up with white women who are used to a man, rising up, okay, the white women are thinking, oh, he's on bad times. It's okay. I can love him up. But then it never materializes, like she says. And so then they're like, okay, I'm out. I'm done with this. And that's one of the issues that I talk about sometimes when I'm saying problems with interracial relationships, because not to say it can't happen, not to say it doesn't work. I actually have several family members in interracial relationships, but you have to understand the culture. Before you dive in, you need to understand the culture and understand everything about it. Because like I said, I run into people all over the world, and I've talked to people from a lot of different cultures, and it's always interesting how they think about American black people. And one of the things that they tell me all the time is, you don't act like a lot of these black people. You don't act like black people. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't act like black people? But what they really mean is that I have, different things in the way that I carry myself, the way that I go about my life, that in their mind doesn't line up to the stereotypical narrative that they've actually been fed from wherever they were in the world.
Because white women will take a chance on a broke black man, whereas a black woman is not going to take a chance on a broke man, period.
And again, that's not true. There was a big thing about 10 years ago where black women were even encouraged to date. I think it was 20 years ago, maybe 20 years ago to 10 years ago, somewhere in that range. But black women were encouraged to, be with a man and, be there. He might have potential. In fact, Steve Harvey had a big forum when he still had his show, and they had literally 2,000 people in the audience. And I believe Sherry Shepherd was there and Hill Harper, and both of them were talking about marrying potential. So again, this is what she's saying is not fully true. A lot of black women will actually take a chance, but that's when I actually encourage black women not to take a chance. That is not your role as a woman to love him up into money. He needs to be working on that before he even meets you.
Black men always say, she'll just get her a project and a welfare check and some food stamps. But she does not want a man laying up on her, expecting her to provide him with food and shelter. So I think that's pretty smart on the part of the black woman. The fourth reason that I believe that white men don't marry black women at the same rate that black men marry white women is because white men are not in the business of trying to impress black men. They don't try to impress black men by taking their women, because black men have a history of pimping out black women to white men. And that goes all the way back to the end of slavery, when white men did not have as easy access to black women as they'd had during the slavery days. But they still desired black women. So what they did was they paid a black man to pimp out the black woman.
I know she's dropping some history of things that probably happened, but I don't know if that's true today. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I don't think too many black men are concerned about what white men think. I don't think they care
I can remember hearing my grandmother and different ones talking about that when I was a child, talking about so and so black man is cloaking for the white men. And I didn't know what that meant for a long time, but finally my mother explained it to me that those would be the black men who would get the colored, they said colored, they would get the colored women out for the white men. That has been an ongoing scenario since slavery ended. Black women are not fascinated with white men in the same way that black men are fascinated with white women.
Okay, again, I think she's reaching. I think she's reaching there. Now, I think it might have been a big deal for maybe the women that are over 65 right now. So if a woman is over 65, that might be true. Because I'm not sure how things were back then, and I do know that things have changed. However, I would say in today's world, I would think it's a little bit different. Also, she's mentioning here about black women and black women not being attracted to white men. And again, that's not true at all either. When I've talked to Gen Zers, especially, there are a lot of Gen Zers that prefer white men over black men, especially if these women have been around, white men for a long period of time, like they went to high school with them or college with them, different things like that. So no, I have to totally disagree when it comes to that part. I mean, what you like is what you like. I have no, again, my thing is about marriage and about clarity on the information that we put out here. It's not about judging whether a person wants to go with, a foreign person, a person outside their race or whatever. I don't care. Love God, get married, be happy.
And I give me a white girl, give me a white girl, a white girl. And then the white girl comes in, and when the reality hits, they hit the road. Black women are not desperate for white men. So they tend to be as picky about the white men they marry as the white men are about the black women they marry.
Again, I don't find that that's true. I have, remember my background is media. I've done weddings. And I've literally had conversations with black women where they are kind of embarrassed on the fact that they're marrying a white man. I've also seen situations where, I've had conversations depending upon what I was trying to do. And, like I say, just in my daily life with black women who have married white men and really didn't find the best one. And, they either kind of said something to me about it or, it was kind of obvious in the way that they were acting. So, I mean, no, I think some of this is just hearsay because, I think it makes people feel better. But, one of the things that I noticed, for instance, to give you an example, if you're a black man and you vary from, or even a black woman, truthfully, but if you're a black man that varies from the stereotype, a lot of times it can be very difficult for you to find, a person. And that's one of the things we talk about all the time. In fact, people have even talked about educated lames. And there was a big move about educated lames. And I am an educated lame according to, the definition of it. But when you start to talk about even things like that, there are a lot of women, and I've seen them, and they will pass over a black man who's an educated lame engineer, and they will go to a white man that's an educated lame engineer. And because the culture is different, because they're dealing with the white man, they don't foresee him acting in the same way that they will foresee a black man to act. So it's easier for the woman, if she's a black woman in this situation, to consume a nerdy white man over consuming a nerdy black man. Because in her mind, the black man's supposed to have a certain swag about him, a certain energy about him. But the white man, it doesn't matter if he has that, and see, those are the types of things that I've noticed and I've seen. And it's not to say that one, again, is better than the other. As long as you find your person and you're happy and you're in love or whatever, I mean, cool. But I just want us to make sure that we're even Steven on this and not acting like, piling this thing up, one way or another.
So it's a mutual thing. And they come to the marriage with mutual respect. And again, these marriages last a long time. I know college professors, and that's one of the places that interracial marriages flourish is on college campuses. He might be the department head, and she might be an associate professor, or a full professor, but they flourish on college campuses.
Again, we got to think about it. She's talking about college campuses. It's a place of education. Okay, so these people are probably educated. More than likely, just for them to get at that level, we're talking about socioeconomic. More than likely, this woman and this man have come from a background in which they actually appreciate marriage. When you are coming from a background where you don't appreciate marriage because nobody has been married in your family in like 3 generations, you don't care about marriage, right? So you have to look at all these things. You just can't look at one of what you see. It's like what could be happening behind the stage.
And I think in the entertainment business, maybe they flourish. They do well. Black women do well with white men in the entertainment industry. But I've seen them really flourish in every college campus, including HBCUs. Every college campus that I have ever attended or that I am affiliated with, there's going to be at least one black woman married to a white man. But if it's a big campus, it's going to be more than one. White men are selective about the black women that they marry because they can be. They are the top of the line. White men are everybody's favorite.
Now, I'll kind of agree with that a little bit. I have noticed that when white men, especially what I would consider decent white men who have most of their lives together, they end up with some of the prettiest black women. I'm not talking about the loser white dude. I'm not talking about, the ghetto version of what we would consider, they might call it our neck. I don't know if I can say that, but you know what I'm talking about. I don't see them as much with the prettiest black women. But I do, or the older white guy, that's trying to now get him a young black woman because he's now divorced his white wife and that's what he always wanted. I don't necessarily see them with the best black women, but I've noticed that when you're starting to talk about a dude maybe from 20 to 35 who, has a lot of his life together and he is, like I say, that decent, educated lame on their side, who's probably going to be making 6 figures in 5 years. By the time he's 30, he's probably making 6 figures. They end up with some beautiful black women. I ain't gonna even lie about it. Now that I have seen.
White women favor white men. Asian women favor white men. And Hispanic women go 50-50. But the white Hispanic women favor white men. Now, I want to go back because we have to keep talking about that OkCupid poll because black men think that because they didn't rank at the bottom, that says women desire them. Now, if you were to go and read the breakdown of that OkCupid poll, because I did, the way it broke down was white women desired white men the most. Number 2, Asian women desired white men the most. And number 3, Hispanic women by about 50% desired white men. So white men won out overwhelmingly over everybody else. Black men came in second because black women, and only black women, chose them as their most desirable. Hispanic men came in number 3 because at least half of their women desired them. And Asian men came in at the bottom because nobody desired them. Their women desired white men. So if the Asian women had been loyal, the Asian men and the black men would have tied. But because they didn't, the Asian men got at the bottom because nobody desired them, and then black men did not choose black women either. So that's how come black women were at the bottom.
What she's saying, I would say, is true, but I think again she's not placing in the media. The number one, like I say, media goes all around the world. So the very first thing that everybody sees is white men. That's what they see. Who is Captain America? Captain America is a white man. Yes, the Falcon shows up, but the Falcon is kind of a side character. And by the time Black Panther gets in there, we've already been introduced to 7 or 8 white men. I mean, that's just how it is. Now, I'm not mad at Marvel. I'm not mad at, I'm not saying anybody is being racist or anything like that. I'm just saying, you got to put all this into perspective. When we see things over and over again, I'm constantly trying to let people know, you see things over and over again, you start to be attracted to those things. And, like I've talked about, a lot of black women are very much into Korean men right now because of Korean dramas. And what are you talking about? Those are Asian men. So, you have BTS and, some of the K-pop that's coming out. And so, again, you're getting even white, women that are saying, especially younger white girls, they like BTS because why? They're the big, pop, especially about 2 years ago, they were the big thing. And so now all these, young girls are looking up to them and what? They look Asian, because they're Asian. And so now they might try to talk to the Asian guys in school. It always goes back to media. Well, I'm going to stop it here because this is getting a little long and I feel like, she's kind of saying the same things. When I've gone out and when I see black women, there's a lot more things out there that she's not talking about. That put black women at the bottom of these OkCupid polls. One of the things that she did not talk about, at least in the first 13 minutes, because there's about 4 minutes left, is the whole concept is sometimes when, you're dealing with the online, this is online, this is OkCupid, this is not anything beyond OkCupid. So now as a man, you're going in and you might be looking for not just women, you might be looking for women without children. So now when you're looking for women without children, we know that, black people, period, I'm not going to put this all on black women, have an issue of procreating a little too early and outside of wedlock. Right. And so if you have a situation where, women have, 1, 2, 3 babies, they're not going to be selected as much as the woman that doesn't have them. Because even if a man wants babies, it's not just about he doesn't want to raise those babies. He's even thinking about, just dating. Now, dating is going to be a little bit more difficult. Like I had one lady I went out because I will date a single mom. I've told people that before. I don't do it as much as I used to. But I mean, I've said on this channel before, I have a video talking about it. There's 2 types of single moms. There are single moms who are great and awesome. And yes, they have this baby, but it could be under certain circumstances. And then there's just, babies, mamas that's just trash. These are 2 totally different things. But this particular time, I actually didn't get a good one. I found a trash one. We were heading back to her house after the first date. And she literally was like, yeah, usually I'll have the guy that I'm going out with, to pay for, my babysitter. And I was like, oh? What were they, Reggie? I mean, it was like, your child ain't my issue. Now, if we get married or something, I'll step in, but it's like, your child ain't my issue. And that's your issue. And if it costs you $100, worth of child sitting, to go out with me, that's on you. The point I'm trying to make here is that is part of the factor. That is part of what's going on. And I don't think OkCupid has a way to figure that out. Because again, you're talking about a dating app. And a dating app that's only saying, okay, black and white type of things, like, not, racist, but the issue of black and white saying, hey, over here, these people got selected, over here, these people didn't. And then also, we don't know what kind of pictures, these women were putting up. We don't know what kind of pictures the men were putting up. We don't know where their background is. We don't know really anything else. All we know is that they weren't picking, the black women, and they were picking, I believe that, and I've always believed that, black women have plenty of men to choose from. They can get in front of them. Some of the women who think that they won't get chose are the main ones that black men are looking for. I do think we have a communication issue. And again, that's one of the reasons why this channel exists. But anyway, I think that's enough on this one. I'm going to go ahead and close this on out. But again, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for thumbing it up and liking it. And I'm going to see you all in the next video.